Hello, my name is Crystal Petry, and you are watching season 3 of the Crystal Petry Podcast. I have a great episode for you today. Today, we are going to talk about and learn all about mindset. What is the mindset of professional athletes? What is the mindset of Division I collegiate athletes that gets them to this level that like 98% of us, David, probably would never get to? But what is that mindset that separates them from us? And here to educate us on all things mindset, David Kitchen. Welcome to the podcast, David.
Come on, Crystal. You got that intro music. I was over here bopping. I'm ready, man. This is fun. Yeah, you have me vibing already. Come on.
That's what I'm talking about, David. This is going to be such a great interview. I'm so excited. Okay, where in the world are you, David?
Oh, I am Northeast PA. I am born and bred in the sticks of Pennsylvania. Moved all over the country, but I'm back home now.
Well, you know what they say, you can always come back home.
That's it. You know, I used to say all the time when I left, I would never do another winter up north. And then it called me home, and here I am, man. Here I am.
Doing winters up north.
I know. It's brutal. Every winter I say this is the last one, but
yeah,
you learn to love it.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's get into this mindset education. David, take us back, because you are a strength training coach for Division I athletes. A lot of those athletes went on to play in professional sports. Take us back to your journey into where becoming a strength and conditioning coach started.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I actually didn't have the education to get into being a strength and conditioning coach. So I didn't know that was what I wanted to do. I was selling IT systems. I graduated with a business degree, and I was selling like cloud solutions to medium and small businesses all over PA. And like, I mean, I was making money. It was a great time to be in that field, you know, but I was just miserable. And I had a former coach that called me, and he called me and said, "Hey, can you come help me coach these kids? I took over a new high school program. I need some assistant coaches. Will you come do this?" And I was like, I mean, I haven't been around the game in a few years. You know, I don't know how much I can help.
Football, correct?
Football, yes, football specifically. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. So I went and I started coaching the kids, and he said, "Hey, can you help out in the weight room?" And I always loved the weight room as a player. I spent a lot of time there as an athlete myself. It was the only reason that I got an opportunity to play in college. And so I just fell in love immediately. Like, I was like, this is such a unique way to impact the game. You know, I love the X's and O's and the technical piece, but really I love the process behind it. Like, you train for 8 months out of the year, and then those 4 months that you're playing in season are just show and tell time. Like, you either did the work or you didn't, you know? And so that's where I fell in love with it. And at that point, like I said, I didn't have a degree in exercise science. And so I literally went home and I wrote a handwritten letter to every Division I school on the East Coast. And I said, I will quit my job and come work for you for free if you give me an opportunity.
You did not.
And yeah, that's how I got into the field. So I got an opportunity at Robert Morris University. They said, "Hey, you can come in and do the internship program." And so I came in. I was, you know, at that point graduated and everything. And I was in there with kids that were in their sophomore and junior year of undergrad. And we're all equals, you know, because I didn't have a degree either. And so I'm studying in the background. You know, I was just talking about this, like, I didn't know the science behind everything I was doing, but I knew how to connect with people. I knew how to, you know, motivate. I knew how to connect. I knew how to build relationships. And I had the practical experience, like the under the bar experience. Like, I had spent a lot of time in the weight room myself. And so I just did all the studying in the background. Like, I just learned enough to become dangerous. And I studied my butt off and passed the exam. Which everybody was like, "Dude, there's no way you're going to pass. You know, if you don't have a degree, like,
wow,
you're basically trying to teach yourself 4 years of exercise science to pass an exam, and, you know, good luck," right? Is basically what people said. And so I bought all the textbooks and I just read them cover to cover, and that's what I did, you know. And so that's how I got into the field.
Did you pass the exam? We all want to know.
I did. First shot. Yeah. So I went from, it's kind of crazy, honestly. I went from being an unpaid intern with no exercise science degree to being the youngest head strength and conditioning coach in the NCAA 2 years later.
Really?
Yep.
Listen,
So it was a wild ride, but we got there.
Right, right. Well, congratulations on that. I feel like that could be a whole
Thank you.
nother podcast. Like this part of your life could be a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
For me, and this is something we spoke about before, David, I feel like when you're dealing with like strength and conditioning, exercising, lifting weights, yes, the physical part is there and you need that. But also, I feel like you need the mental part as well. When did you discover that this part of my job is just as much mental as it is physical?
Immediately. It was something that I understood from my own life, right? That when I lost football as a player and when I, left the game, like I had to figure out how to apply the skills that I had learned as a player to my life. And so I realized that if I took the same process driven approach to everything else in my life, everything else got better, right? Just the same way it did in football. And so it was taking that same concept and that same framework and now teaching it to the athletes that I was coaching, right? And a lot of those kids, a lot of these athletes are hyper competitive. They want to be successful. They want to be great. And so helping them to detach from the result a little bit and focus more on that, like, what do I need to do on a daily basis? That if I do this enough times, it almost becomes unlikely that I won't be successful, right? Like it almost becomes impossible to fail because I'm so focused on doing things that move the needle in the right direction. And so that was really an early understanding for me. What came later was being able to accurately communicate that. Like I had to grow as a coach and I had to grow in my own mindset in understanding that people communicate differently. Like you can feel it already. I'm a high energy dude. Like I'm the kind of guy that like, as soon as you walk in the room, you're going to feel my presence because that's how I interact with people. And so I had to learn, especially coaching female athletes or other sports besides football, where the weight room is not necessarily like part of the culture of the game. You have to understand how to connect with those athletes and be more empathetic. And part of that for me was learning to be more vulnerable, right? And share with them my struggles and share with them a little bit more of me as a human in order to build that connection and build that trust and build that relationship so that when they show up in the morning at 5:55 in the morning, nobody wants to be in the weight room at 5:55 in the morning.
Yeah,
right? And so
up.
Exactly. And so it's my job to build a relationship that's so deep that it's like when they get out of their car and it's freezing cold and they're walking to the weight room at 5:45, they're at some point their mindset shifts from why do I have to do this to, oh, I get to go be with Coach Kitch and I know that the energy level is going to be there, and then I can shift into process mode and I can go to work, right? So it was an early understanding that I knew I had to teach that, but it took me a while to really perfect the messaging, right? And really understand what do I have to do as a coach and how do I have to get better in order to best communicate this to the athletes.
Explain to us that mentality, David, that mentality of these Division I athletes, male, female, football, or any other sport that would make them get up probably at 5 a.m. to make it there for 5:55 a.m. You're working out, you're running. I mean, you're doing all of these things for 8 months out of the year. So you're literally training and practicing more than you are actually on the field. What is that mindset that you have to have in order to do that and be okay and be excited, maybe happy, at peace to do something like that?
Yeah, I think there has to be a deep understanding of it's going to be worth it, right? Like you genuinely have to believe in your heart that this is going to be worth it. And the other part is you have to have a deep belief that you are capable of great things. And if you talk to these kids, like they truly, truly believe it. And whether it's true or not, when they walk in the door, they think they're going to the NFL or the NBA or, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And so it's their job then between the time they get on campus as a 17-year-old and the time that they leave to close the gap between who they want to be and who they are currently. And so if you're really and the ones that make it, the ones that really go to that next level are the ones who don't just focus on the physical, they focus on the other stuff. They focus on their character, right? Building their habits, their ability to be consistent and deal with success and adversity and failure. They deal with their ability to be committed to the right things, because your whole life you've been great and you've been on this individual journey, but you're also part of a team. So can I take a step back and be a team player when I need to, knowing that the team goals complement my individual goals? Right. And then also, do they build their creativity skills, their ability to problem solve, their ability to take lessons from one arena and put it into another? And then their ability to communicate as well. Like, can they communicate their needs? Can they communicate to their teammates, why things are important? I mean, all of those things come into play with it. But again, at the beginning and end of it all is identity. It's do you truly believe that you are capable of being great? And are you willing to hear the hard truths and do whatever it takes to be great? Because the thing that a lot of people get wrong in kind of the general population, and I didn't understand this until I got out of the athletics world and I started to be around, we call them general population people, but just the average everyday person, whether it's a business owner or whatever. Most people don't truly understand the price tag on elite. Like, we throw that word around. We talk about oh, this is elite. We want to be elite. Like, if you knew what elite really looked like, there's a lot of people that become what I call window shoppers, right? Where they see the price tag and they don't actually want to pay it. And so then they become the type of person that tears other people down or makes excuses about why they can't have it, or they start to focus on things they can't control, right? In all these different areas of their lives, and they become a window shopper. And I'm not just talking about being successful, quote unquote, in financial terms or in athletic terms. I'm talking about like the price tag it takes to be a great husband or a great father, or the price tag it takes to be physically fit, or the price tag that it takes to be mentally fit, like to do the work on yourself and go to therapy and those things. Like, I don't think the average person really understands what goes into becoming a high performer and really chasing that 1%. And so you even see in the college world, some of these kids come in and they think they want to be an NFL player, or they think they want to be in the NBA, and then they get a glimpse of it. And you have kids that make a realization and say, hey, you know what? Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the things that it takes in order for me to become that. And that's okay. That's just self-awareness. You just need to know, right? Like, there's that old thing, like, choose your hard. What hard do you want? You got to figure out what that is for you. And so part of our job as coaches, especially with 18 and 22-year-olds, is helping them define what is success. Like, beyond the wins and losses and the championship rings, like, what is success to you? Because there's a difference between I want to be a 4-year player at the college level. I want to be an All-American. I want to be a pro player. I want to be an all-pro player. I want to be a Hall of Famer. Like, those are all different. That's different levels, right? And now you're taking the top 1% and you're chopping it into like 0.2%, 0.1%. You know what I mean? Like, so now it's different devils, different levels, different devils, right? So each level you go up, you got to make sure that when you set that expectation of, hey, this is who I want to be. Okay, well, here's all the things that come with that. Like, this is what your life has to look like. And then you have to make a decision. Am I willing to sacrifice those things in order to get this? And that goes back to that question I said earlier, which is you have to ask yourself, is it worth it?
I had a coworker and her daughter played soccer from like 4 or 5, club, did all the things. And then she started going on college tours to play collegiate soccer. After those college tours, her daughter was like, I don't want to do that. I'm not choosing that hard to quote you. She was like, that's too much for me. I love soccer, but I'm not willing to do what these college coaches are asking me to do. And the mom was like, could not believe it. Soccer is a very expensive sport. So she was like, I didn't spend all this money. We did all this traveling, to get you to collegiate soccer. And she says, I'm not choosing that hard.
And and you know what? That's hard, but it's okay. Like, you have, and that was part of the conversation that we had with a lot of guys. I mean, we would sit down, guys, girls, didn't matter. I'd sit down with them. We'd have a conversation. Hey, listen, like, if you don't want to be an All-American or a pro athlete, that's fine. That is okay, right? But here's what your life still has to look like in order to get the most out of this experience, right? And maybe you don't, and even you can translate that to business, right? Like for me personally, I have no interest in being Jeff Bezos or Zuckerberg. Like I have no interest in building $1 billion business.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the hard that I choose. The hard that I choose is to be able to be a balanced entrepreneur where I still have a family life and I still have all these things and I have a thriving business, right? So it's still hard. It just requires my focus to go in different areas, right? And so if you're a kid or a student athlete that decides, hey, I don't want to be a pro, okay, well then how do we get you involved in extracurriculars beyond sports so that when you step out into the real world and you're into the corporate world or whatever your space may be, you're prepared for that as well. And you're still getting the lessons that you learned from athletics. Right. And so, again, it's just changing the perspective. It's just changing the aim, but you have to know what you're aiming for. And in order to do that, you got to be brutally honest with yourself. Like you have to sit down and say, I have to get crystal clear on what I want in this world and what success looks like to me. And that may change over time when you get new information. Right. That's part of the human experience is that we change our minds. Right. You have a child. Your perspective changes on what's important.
Absolutely.
You find love, whatever the thing is. So it may change, but you at least have to have from the starting point, like, this is what I'm aiming for. Until I get information that tells me otherwise, I'm going to live in accordance with what it takes to get this thing.
How did being a strength and conditioning coach, David, help you become a mindset coach?
Because every day is perspective. Like I used to tell people all the time, I don't coach physical, I coach perspective, right? Because the weight room, you got to think about it. The weight room is a place where failure is encouraged. Like we have to teach people to fail. Yeah, we come in and we want you to train. We want you to push your body all the time to these limits that you think are there, right? And then we need to get you past those limits. So how do we do that? Well, a lot of that is mindset. A lot of that is us understanding what's the internal narrative you have that's telling you that you can't do this thing or you're not capable of going through this, and then helping people decipher between, am I incapable or am I unwilling? Because those are two different things.
That's the difference.
And there's a lot of people in the world that are claiming incapable when really it's unwilling, right? And so getting kids to understand that. So I started to really understand that the more I could coach the mental side, the better our performance got on the physical side. And the more that I could keep them consistent, right? Because it's all the other stuff. It's, can you do it? You can come in one day and have a great workout. That doesn't make you a champion, right? Like you have to come in and do it day after day after day after day, regardless of how you feel. So now, can you have the emotional intelligence and the self-awareness to be able to decipher between this is an emotion I'm feeling or this is a real thing that I need to pull back a little bit, because they're very different, right? There are times physically where it's like, hey, I got to pull back. Like I'm not there physically today. But if it's a mental thing, well, you got to learn to get past that, right? And so all of these skills that I'm talking about were mindset skills. And so I went down the rabbit hole on sports psychology. So when I was deciding, I didn't have a degree in exercise science, like I said, so I was like, I got to get a master's degree so that I have more credibility in the field and I can continue to grow. And so I went and I decided that I wanted to do exercise science and I wanted to do sports psychology. So I did a dual program where I got a master's degree in both. And so that's when I really started to like, okay, now I really understand the mental side of this. Mm-hmm. Just as much as I understand the physical, I understand the mental side. And honestly, as I got older in my coaching career, I relied more on the mental side than I did the physical. Like the physical is, I don't want to underplay what you need to know. You obviously have to have an understanding of the human body and, the training demands and programs and things like that. But really, it's the coaches that can tap into that mental side that do the special things and bring kids to a special place. Like that's the difference. And so that's where I dove into that. And then, obviously going back to get my PhD later that was just, part of it was being a black man in America. I'm like, we need more people with that doctor before their name. So I gotta go get me one, but it's I mean, again, you realize over time that 90% of life is mental. And if you can learn that side of it, you can do almost anything.
David, I did not know you had your PhD.
I'm finishing, not done yet. I'm a candidate still. I got to write a dissertation still.
I was about to start calling you Dr. David for the rest of
No,
this
not yet.
interview.
No, not yet. It's coming soon, though. Coming
I know
soon.
you're going to do it. So congratulations in
Thank
advance.
you. Thank you.
In advance.
Thank you. Thank
Congratulations.
you. But I got about a year left.
Okay. You got it then. David, give us some tangible ways that you can teach mental toughness, that you can teach resiliency.
Such a good question. I think so many people get these terms wrong, right? And part of it is pop culture. Part of it is social media. Like, we get hammered into our heads that discipline and that mental toughness is being able to like white knuckle things and force yourself to do things. And it's not, right? Mental toughness is being able to stay committed to what you said you were going to do after the mood you said it in is gone, right? That's really what mental toughness is. Right. And so my guy, Inky Johnson, has a great quote on this. He said, champions are made on the other side of I don't feel like it.
Oh,
right. Like that's mental toughness. That's mental toughness. It's your ability to say, hey, I made this commitment. I'm going to move forward on it. Right. And so how do we build that? Well, we build that by building better goals. We build that by tying our goals to our identity. So instead of saying, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds, how about you say, I want to be in the best shape possible so that I can play with my kids, or so that I can walk my daughter down the aisle, right? That has a lot more oomph to it than I just want to lose 20 pounds, right? And so when you tie your goals to your identity and to who you want to be, you're more likely to persist in the face of adversity, right? And you're more likely to get through that. And part of that is also changing your expectations around adversity. Like, most people, they set out on things and they don't realize how hard it's going to be, right? So part of that, and I'll give you a great example. So when you go and get your blood drawn, right, the nurse says to you, you're going to feel a pinch, right? Yes. The reason that they do that, what they used to do is say, you may feel a pinch. And what they realized through research is that when you say may, like you tell somebody something may be hard, then they automatically go to the best case scenario and they don't expect the hard. And so then when they get the hard, they get shocked and they pull back. Versus if you say, hey, you're going to feel a pinch, then you mentally start preparing yourself for that pinch. And you're like, okay, here it comes. Let me get through this, right? And the same is true with your goal setting in life. Like, I tell all the young people and all the people that I have the opportunity to mentor that when we're talking about this, I tell them up front, tell yourself it is going to be 10 times harder than you think it is. And then just be pleasantly surprised if it's not. And if you do it that way, then you start to build this mental toughness and this resilience. The other thing is just the ability to detach from outcomes, right? And understanding the again, process-driven things. So what I mean by that is, how do I remove the idea that I have to be perfect and I have to get a certain outcome? And instead, how do I put in place, I have to do these things in order to move forward, right? The actual thing itself can change, right? So if I say I want to be fit for my kid's future, right? I could say, if I wanted an outcome-driven thing, I could say I need to go to the gym 5 times a week. I need to do this. That's all great, right? Or I could say I need to move my body once a day. I need to eat whole foods, right? You take some of the constraints off of it, and so you become more flexible in your approach, right? The end result of being fit doesn't change, but how you get there, you become more flexible in. And so that's mental toughness. Mental toughness is the ability to look at adversity and say, this isn't positive or negative. This is just what is. So how do I navigate this thing, right? And that's a big piece of that mental discipline component, and that mental toughness, so to say, component, right, is knowing who you are in the storm. Like the storm is coming, but can you tell yourself and can you be clear on who you are when that storm comes and how you operate, right? What's your operating system? And that's a big piece. Now, again, you can do things practically to help you with that, right? So there's this idea called identity priming, which is basically you can surround yourself with the type of energy and the type of identity that you want to become. And it increases the likelihood that you will then do that thing, right? It's why people say if you hang out with 5 millionaires, you're going to be the 6th, because you're in an environment that allows it. Now, if say you don't have access to those kinds of people, you can't see it here, but my wall is all covered in great moments in sports. So I have they're huge canvas prints of great moments in sports, and it all has athletes with their arms outstretched in victory. Every one of them. It's Kobe, it's Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Muhammad Ali. I mean, I'm looking up and down the
You
wall
got
here.
some heavy hitters on that
Yeah,
wall.
right. And the reason for that is because I want to be surrounded by that energy at all times, right? It's an identity priming. It reminds me I do hard things. I win, right? Like that's what I do. And so if you can build that into your identity, then when something bad happens, when something quote unquote bad, a negative or an adversity happens, you can sit back and say, no, I still do hard things. Like I win. This is just a great chapter for the book. That's all this is, right? Like that's all this is, right? It's not, and again, it's all perspective, right? Is it one bad scene or is it a bad movie? Those are very different things.
It sounds so encouraging and so inspiring to hear you say it, but I can imagine for someone else to be able to say, I do hard things. I do hard things and I get through it. It feels good to be able to say that about yourself and for that to actually be the truth.
Yes. And well, that's the key. It has to be the truth, right? And so how do we make it the truth? We got to keep evidence. We have to build evidence. Like somebody asked me recently on a podcast, where does your confidence come from to speak on stage and to do the things that you do? And so the confidence comes from the fact that I have a stack of undeniable evidence behind me that I do hard things, right? Like if you look at, whatever it is, whatever part of my life, like I do them and then I don't forget about them. And a lot of times we forget about our wins. And that's part of that is societal conditioning, right? Where we're taught like, be humble, this, that, and the other. Like I'm the opposite. I'm like, no, own that stuff. Like if you're good at something, own it. Like, hey, that is your superpower. Stand on that, right? And so you have to be able to create this evidence in the back of your head that when you're getting knocked down and you're getting knocked around in life, you can look back and say, hey, look at all the stuff that I've done. Like I do hard things. This is who I am. Right? And my team knows it about me. Like they get frustrated with me because if we're going through a down period or whatever, like I get excited because I'm like, yo, now we get like, let's go find out if we are who we say we are. Let's go see if that's, if that's what it is. And so you have to do that. And you have to, again, build that evidence through actually doing the work.
What is the difference between motivation and discipline? This is another word that people just throw around that we hear all the time. What is the difference, David?
Motivation is a candy bar. It tastes good. It feels sweet, but you're hungry again in 5 minutes. Like it's not real. They're not real calories. You can't get filled. You can't get full on that, right? That's what motivation is. And so motivation is a valuable tool, but it's not the end goal. You can use motivation to help you build discipline, but you can't rely on motivation, right? Because motivation fades. Motivation is an emotional state, and emotions are just information. They're not instructions, right? So let me say that again, because a lot of people miss that. Emotions are information, not instructions, okay? So you may feel a certain type of way. If your boyfriend, girlfriend breaks up with you, your emotion might tell you, I need to eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's and binge watch TV, right? That's not what it's telling you to do. Your emotions are just telling you that something hurts, that something requires your attention, right? But a lot of times we interpret those emotions as instructions. And so when we listen to a motivational video, it's instructing us to go do the thing. And it feels good right now, right? And that's great. And if it gets you off the couch, by all means, listen, I love E.T. I love Inky Johnson. I've had the honor to be mentored by those guys. Like, trust me, there's days where I got to put their playlist on too. Like, I get it, right? Like, there's times where I need that too. But that stuff burns hot, but it burns quick. You need to find something that's a sustainable burn that's going to get you out of bed each day. And that's where I go back to discipline is being committed to the person that you said you wanted to be. That's what discipline is. Discipline is being committed to the version of you that you want at the end of it all, right? And so I urge people all the time, sit down and write out, what is your vision for life, right? And I know that's a heavy question, but the way that I phrase it for people and the exercise that I urge every single person on this planet to do is sit down, close your eyes, and picture your funeral, right? And I know that's sad and it can be hard, right? But what is that first paragraph? We're all going to have one. We're all going to have one. What is that first paragraph that you want said at the microphone? Like, who do you want to say it and what do you want them to say? And so for me, I look at it like this, and I'll break my example down so people can use this. When I think about my funeral, first off, I hope there's standing room only and there's a line out the block. Like, I hope I impacted that many people. But what I want my brother to be able to stand up there and say, David left a legacy for his family to be proud of. That's what I want that first sentence to be. David left a legacy for his family to be proud of. Right. And then I want him to say he brought out greatness in everybody that he came in contact with. And then he was honest, he was caring, he was driven, and he was committed to growth. So if he says those 3 sentences about me, I know that I lived the life that I wanted to live. Right. So here's the powerful part when it comes to discipline and motivation. I keep those 3 sentences. They're written all over my house. Yes. They're written in notebooks. I wear on my wrist right here, says leave a legacy. Right. Yes. Like, it's every single day. So when I don't feel like it, when my emotions are lying to me and they're telling me to go find comfort, I look at that stuff and I'm like, oh, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. I have to do this thing.
Yes.
Right? Because the person that I want to become, the person that I want to become requires it. And take it further, right? Every family has one person that changes everything. Every family has one person that's the one. Right? That changes the way you look at education, the way you look at marriage, the way you look at business, all those things. For me personally, I look at it, I come from broken homes. I got a history of divorce in my family. There's a history of addiction in my family. There's a history of poverty in my family. I look at it and I'm like, I got to be the one. My bloodline is waiting on me. My future generations are waiting on me to do the thing. And so I have to be disciplined. I have to build systems in my life that keep me moving in the right direction because it's not about me. It's about my future. It's about my kids. It's about my kids' kids. It's about, that all the way down the road. I want it to be known like 2 generations, 3 generations from now, hey, we get doctorates in this family. We run businesses in this family.
Yes,
we have successful marriages. You know what I'm saying? Like
we do.
That's the type. And when you operate from that place, you operate from discipline. You don't operate from motivation.
Okay, David, I'm going to tell you this, and then we're going to get back to this, my questions. I am scheduled to be on a podcast in July. I'm going to actually be the guest, which is different for me. I'm always the host. One of the questions that they sent over was, what do you want your legacy to be? And I put on there, I don't know. But listening to you in this moment and the way you broke it down, it occurred to me, my first sentence anyway, for my funeral, my first sentence, I want someone to get up there and say, Crystal battled the fire and the fire lost.
Hey, let's go.
Oh my God. That's it.
That's it.
You just worked that out for me. And I'm not going to take credit for that. That's an Ann Richards quote. She was the first female governor of Texas and the only female governor of Texas. But that was a quote she said. But at my funeral, the first sentence I want my sister to say, or my husband to say, that Crystal battled the fire and the fire lost.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
And that's it. There you go. And now day after day, all you got to do, every decision that comes through your operating system, right? Every single decision, you just ask yourself, does it bring me closer to that? If it does, then you have to do it. If it doesn't, then it's a hard no. And that's everything, right? So it could be, it's 9:00 at night and you want to watch another episode of Orange is the New Black or whatever you're watching on Netflix, right? You got to ask yourself, hey, is this going to help me win the battle against the fire? Right. And then you got to be able to be brutally honest with yourself and say, this ain't it.
This ain't
right?
it.
I can't do it. I can't. And I find last night was a perfect example. Got in bed. I was on time. Everything was rocking and rolling. I knew I had to be up this morning. And my phone buzzed as soon as I got in bed. And it was Instagram. And I opened it and I start scrolling. And about 2 minutes in, I realized like, dude, we don't look at our phone before bed. You don't do that. Right. That's not something that somebody that leaves a legacy does. And so turn the phone off, put it across the room, went to bed, right? Like, and again, am I perfect? Absolutely not. I mess this stuff up all the time, right? But can I be 80%? Can I be 90%, right? Can I win moments over and over and over? And if you stack up enough moments, that's how legacies are built.
How can someone that comes from adversity, and you spoke that you come from adversity, how can someone that comes from adversity become mentally tough? And I know it's not a one day thing, or, you know, you got a quote from Ann Richards or whatever, or Inky Johnson, that's going to get you there. What's the first step? What's the first thought process that they need to do on the road to mental toughness?
Yeah. Understand where periods and commas are. Understand where periods and commas are. So a lot of people, and myself included, right? When we come from adversity, a lot of times we tell stories in our head and we put a period where a comma belongs. And so what I mean by that is, you know, I was kicked out of school in the third grade, right? That was the first time I was kicked out of school, was third grade. The principal of the school told my mom, your son will never see anything but the inside of a jail cell, right?
Wow. Listen, we're going to have a problem.
Facts, right. So that story was in me, right? That story was in me. And I said, I got kicked out of third grade, period, right? And then I had a separate story of who I became later. But it's not a separate story. It's one sentence. I got kicked out of school in third grade, comma, and went on to get a PhD. You feel like that's, and so for people that are coming from adversity, the first thing we have to do is start removing those periods, because those are old narratives and they're unfinished stories. And that takes work, right? And I'm a huge advocate of therapy. I go to therapy weekly. It is a non-negotiable for me. Because what happened was I realized, and I think a lot of people that come from adversity can relate to this, I realized as I started to elevate, right, and as I started to get into these different circles, and specifically in the entrepreneurship world, and I was more in the public eye, even more than when I was a coach, I realized that my insecurities and my old demons, my old narratives, my old limiting beliefs, all the things that I held on to from my childhood were still having an effect on my life and my relationships, and more importantly, my relationship with myself. Right? Like, I didn't believe that I was worthy. Like, no matter what I did, I didn't believe I was worthy. And so there was also this piece of me that was trying to amass external rewards to fill an internal wound, right? And that doesn't work. All the titles and the jobs and the money in the world don't fix what's going on in here.
And that's so a lot where addiction comes from as well. People trying to
Yeah. Well, and there's that great story, right, where it's like, you know, when somebody says, what's the matter? And they say, oh, I'm an alcoholic. And the person says back to them, no, that's how you deal with what's wrong. What's actually wrong.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
You feel like that's, you know what I mean? Like that's what it is. And so it was the same for me, right? Like, if you look at it, it wasn't addiction, but it was like, what's wrong? And I was like, nothing. I'm successful. I'm a Division I coach. I'm a PhD candidate. I've written books on this, that, and the other. And then it becomes, no, that's how you dealt with what was wrong. What's actually going on with you, right? And it's like, why are you chasing all these things? And so I think for people that come from any type of adversity, you know, it's releasing the old, and you got to work through that stuff. And I highly suggest getting professional help. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, I slipped into a severe depression about 4 years ago now, 5 years ago, and almost lost everything. Almost lost my businesses, almost lost everything. And I went to therapy, and what I did over the next 7 to 9 months was twice a week, I would literally like sit down, and me and my therapist would work through this stuff. So I tell people I went to the dungeon. Like, we all have those places in our minds that have those boxes of things that we don't want to deal with. Right. And so we lock them up in this box, and we put them in the back of our mind, and we say, I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with that later. Eventually it's going to come out. And so, you know, if you want to deal with that stuff, you have to go to the dungeon, and you got to sit down cross-legged on the floor, and you got to look your demons in your face, and you got to ask them questions. Why are you here? What triggers you? How are you trying to protect me? What old narrative are you operating off of that's no longer true? Right? Like, all these things, and you got to work through that stuff, and then you got to bring it into your everyday life, and you have to now start to recognize those things and pause when those things come up, right? And that's how you start to build that mindset of resilience, and you start to realize you can write your own story. Like, you can write your own story. There's so many people out there that, let me put it this way. If you look at heroes and villains, right? Like superhero movies, a hero and a villain are born from the same thing. A hero was hurt by the world, right? Every time. Hero was hurt by the world, and so he says, I'm not going to let the world hurt anybody else.
Yes.
A villain was hurt by the world and says, I'm going to make everybody else feel my pain.
Yes.
Right? And so we have to realize, are we being the hero or the villain in our story? That's our choice. right? And maybe it's not intentional, but it is your responsibility to fix it. And so, I know I went on a soapbox there, but like, do the work. That's what it comes down to. Like, if you come from a hard time, like, there comes a point where you got to let that stuff go. If you're still complaining about something that happened to you in 92, like, I can't help you. I can't help you. Like you got to move forward,
Or especially the ones that are adults that are still blaming mommy and still blaming daddy for, you got a divorce, or daddy left me, or mommy left me, or whatever that case is. At some point in your life, as an adult, we're not talking about children or teenagers.
Right.
As an adult, at some point in your life, you have to take accountability and do the work.
That's it. You have to. And it's not weakness. Like, it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
It's going to, I warn people that all the time. Like, this is not kumbaya stuff. Like, this is intentional. It's intentional soul work, right? Like, it's dark work. It's stuff that's in the shadows that shows up in the light, right? But now when people talk, and one of the greatest compliments that I get from people is when they tell me you changed. I'm like, yeah, I had to. Like, I got to be the man the moment requires, right? And when I was a child, I did childish things, but I had to let go of my childish ways to become a man, right? And so,
scripture.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the way this thing has to go. And so,
yes.
you got to be willing to do that, though.
You spoke, David, that you went to therapy. If you're comfortable saying, what moment, what thing happened where you were like, I need to go to therapy? Like, I need some help.
Oh man. So I'll never forget. I was driving back from Georgia. So I've lived all over the country. I've driven all over the country, had the opportunity to be all over. And I was coming back from Georgia and I started having panic attacks, and I never had a panic attack in my life. And I started shaking and like, I couldn't breathe, the whole thing. And for me, somebody that had spoken in front of groups his whole life, coached on the biggest stages, like done all these things, I didn't know what was wrong. And so I got scared and I was like, man, what is this? And here's what's interesting. What triggered the panic attacks was the fact that I was driving a U-Haul truck that had no radio. So it was just me and my thoughts.
Oh,
and so
wow.
when all the outside noise stopped, I couldn't sit with myself. And that's what triggered those panic attacks. And so that was the moment that I was like, okay, if I don't like the company of me, that's a problem. Right. And so that's when I started to get interested and started to be like, okay, I got to find something that works for me, that changes this. And I didn't right away, honestly, Crystal. That was the moment that I knew I needed help. It wasn't the moment that I got help. It wasn't the moment that I got help. I let myself slip into this depression where I was trying to fool the world. I was trying to pretend to everybody that I was okay. And I mean, I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning with my girlfriend at the time. She would go to work and I'd go back to bed until noon. Like, and so I was hiding this thing from everybody. And then finally, like, the dam just broke. And I was just like, I couldn't hide the mask fell, and everybody saw it. And they were like, my mom, my girlfriend, my brother, my grandmother, everybody was like, dude, what is wrong with you? Like, are you okay? And it was a moment where I looked my mom in the face and I said, no, I'm not okay.
Wow.
And my mom knows, like I said, grew up single parent household. I was the oldest. So I've been the man of the house since I'm 10 years old, 9 years old. And so when she knows, when I look at her and say, I'm not okay, like, it's real, and so that was the moment. That was the moment for me where she's like, you gotta talk to somebody. And then that was 5 years ago. I haven't missed a week since.
Wow. So David, you are a national speaker. You have been on stages in front of thousands and thousands of people. So congratulations on that, because that's a flex, I'm saying it.
Thank you.
You're also a mindset coach. At this point in your career, what is your intention in this space?
Yeah, honestly, I just want to help as many people as possible get to the place where they can actually go all in on themselves and actually like chase, like get out of the stands of life. Like, that's the intention for me, is I want to help as many people as possible get into the arena and like actually compete for the life that they want. When I started this business, I started Edge Leadership Academy. It was just about building leaders. It was about helping student athletes. It was about helping businesses. And we still do that. I still own that company. I'm still heavily involved in it. The coaching thing came as a response to, so let me back up. We started the business. It was successful. We grew. Because of the success of our clients and the books that I had written, I started to get opportunities to speak on stages.
Okay.
As I spoke on stages, that's when people started to reach out to me and say, hey, do you take on one-on-one clients? Do you coach people? And I didn't at the time. And I said, no, that's not my thing. You know, I don't want to be another internet coach. Like I didn't want to do that. And it got to the point where like I started to hear these stories from people where they were like, I really need your help. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to start taking on 2 a year. And then it became 5. And then, you know what I mean? And it grew from there. And so now we do it. And I work with, you know, everybody from the average stay-at-home mom or the average, you know, blue-collar dad or whatever it is, all the way up to professional athletes, entrepreneurs, millionaires, whatever. But really my intention is the same across all of them. It's to help you, you know, define what success is for you and get in the arena and go fight for that life, because it's here. It's there. It's available for you. I'm proof of it. You know, you can have what you want in this world. You just got to find the right people, the right systems, and you got to have a fire in your heart and calluses on your hand, and you got to go to work every single day.
David, you have been amazing on this podcast.
Thank you.
I mean, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, within the 45 minutes that we've been speaking, like I said, you know, the podcast host was like, what do you want? And I don't know if I ever thought about it. Maybe it just never occurred to me, but just having this conversation with you has at least helped me get the first sentence. And then I know what I have to do and how I have to work from there. So if no one else is helped from this podcast, which I know that's not going to be true, I definitely was.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Seriously. Thanks for sharing time. Seriously, it means a lot. Like anytime I get to connect and you know, share a little bit with people, I love it. So thank you so much for having me.
You are more than welcome, sir. And thank you to my community. You can get David's podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.